Star Wars The Clone Wars Season 7 Episode 8 Together Again has finally released on Disney+. After exploring Ahsoka's journey in the criminal underworld away from the Jedi Order and her master Anakin Skywalker, we've now finally reached the conclusion of the Ahsoka Alone Arc in the lead up to the highly anticipated Siege of Mandalore arc. So, before we dive straight into every detail of the episode, remember to hit the subscribe button to be notified every time I release a recap and explainer of every single Clone Wars Season 7 episode. The episode begins right where we left off last time, with Ahsoka and the Martez sisters stuck in the same Pyke prison cell as before. The group discuss potential methods for conning the Pikes into releasing them from prison, but Ahsoka wants to take a more realistic approach to the situation. Rafa again shows her distrust for Ahsoka, blaming her for the dumping of the spice. This causes an argument between the group where Trace surprisingly chooses to side with Ahsoka over her own sister. It's clear that Ahsoka has gained the full trust of Trace at this point, but is still on rocky terms with Rafa. After a lot more bickering between the sisters, Ahsoka comes up with a solution to get the group out of their prison cell. Rafa is of course distrustful to Ahsoka's plan, but she reassures the sisters that trust is essential if they want to escape. Next, the group is removed from their cell and brought face to face with the leader of the Pikes, Marg Krim. He demands that the group pay their debt for the failed spice mission and threatens to kill Trace and Rafa if they are unable to pay. Ahsoka comes up with a brilliant plan, telling Marg Krim that the sisters had hidden the spice off-world for their own profit. She then deceptively tells Krim that he should give the sisters one rotation to relocate the spice and return it to the Pikes, telling him that she will hand over the location of their families if they do not return. This of course is very smart of Ahsoka, as the parents of Trace and Rafa were revealed to have been killed by Jedi Master Luminara Unduli in the last episode. Krim agrees to the deal and further threatens to torture and kill Ahsoka should they fail to return. As the group is escorted away by the Pyke guards, Marg Krim and his second-in-command, Fife, realise that this is an obvious deception. He reveals that his life is in just as much danger as Ahsoka and the sisters, because he reports to a mysterious figure which you've definitely heard of, even higher than him. I'll break down the identity of this mysterious figure very shortly, but many of you would already know who I'm referring to. Krim is clearly scared of this mysterious figure, as he is always watching the activities of the criminal syndicates. As the sisters leave the planet, we cut back to the cloaked Mandalorians from the last episode, which as we now know are Ursa, Wren and Bo Katan Kryze. They note that Ahsoka did not show up in their scans of the ship that left the planet, and move their surveillance to the prison facility where Ahsoka is currently being held. Bo Katan splits off from the group to specifically seek out and find Ahsoka. Following that, we again see Ahsoka use the Force to unlock her prison cell door and sneakily make her way outside of the prison area. We then see a shocking reversal of roles, with Rafa now being fully on board with Ahsoka's plan because she realises that sacrifices as big as Ahsoka's just was are very rare among the underworld. Trace on the other hand is skeptical of the plan and doubts Ahsoka will be able to pull it off. The sisters agree to return and rescue Ahsoka because of her great sacrifice. We then cut back to Ahsoka sneaking around the Pyke spice production facilities, where she eventually comes across a weapons supply room. Before gearing up with a grenade belt. I've got to say, this was a really cool part of the episode and I did love to see that. The Martez sisters then begin their plan, where they will steal another shipment of spice to make up for the previous lost shipment and rescue Ahsoka. Once they arrive back on Obadiah, they force the dock foreman to load their ship with spice intended for other customers. I have no idea what species those guys are, but they look so cool, so let me know down in the comments below who you think they are. We then cut back to Ahsoka, who is sneaking around the production facilities of Obadiah, where she stumbles upon Marg Krim speaking to a hologram. If you remember the mysterious high-up figure I mentioned before, this is Darth Maul. If you've seen the previous seasons of the Clone Wars, you'll know how he became the leader of a large collective of criminal syndicates in the galaxy, but if you haven't, remember to subscribe to the channel, as I will be releasing a video on that very shortly. Krim tells Maul that his shipments have recently been getting intercepted by Republic patrols, and Maul questions whether or not Jedi are involved in these missions. After Krim tells Maul that none of his men survived the encounter, he quickly realises that the Jedi were in fact involved. Maul notices Ahsoka in the corner of the hologram but is unable to identify her before quickly ending the hologram. Before he leaves, he mentions that Crimson Dawn will not accept their incompetence any longer. This scene is great because we get a huge reference to Solo, a Star Wars story, and we get some foreshadowing of Fife taking over the Pyke Syndicate in the Son of Dathomir comics, which I will be covering in the next few days. News of Ahsoka's escape reaches Krim, leading them to evacuate the room and allowing Ahsoka to enter their command center. Ahsoka then finds out that Maul's transmission is coming from Mandalore, much to her surprise. Ahsoka is quickly surrounded by the Pyke guards and initially puts up a great fight before being surrounded once again. Krim sees Ahsoka use a force push on his guards, causing him to wrongly assume that she is a Jedi. Ahsoka is then stunned, but not before she was able to place explosive charges within their command center and around their factories. We then get a really funny moment between the dock foreman and the sisters as he calls his manager out to figure out who the sisters really are. The group begin fighting and we get some really funny lines from everyone here. The fight eventually comes down to Rafa and the dock manager moving to a conveyor belt suspended very high above the ground. Rafa of course comes out on top, sending the manager plunging to his death. Following that, Ahsoka is on the verge of execution at the hands of the Pikes, but they are quickly interrupted by the return of the sisters. Marg Krim then reveals the truth about Ahsoka's Jedi past to the sisters, who are disappointed that she kept the truth from them. Ahsoka understandably did not want to tell them about her past after hearing the story about the death of their parents. They have no time to argue though, as the explosives planted by Ahsoka previously begin to detonate, allowing their escape. The group quickly move to their ship to begin their retreat. They are tailed by 2 Pyke fighters, but Ahsoka and the group are able to shoot them down. Trace then really comes into her own as the captain of the Silver Angel, making a risky maneuver to escape the Pikes. The move was successful, but it did frighten Ahsoka and Rafa. While making their escape, we get confirmation that the Night Owls have witnessed the chase and confirmed Ahsoka's presence on the ship. The sisters then question why Ahsoka left the Order. She remarks that it was complicated, which, we know, it really was. Sisters remark that Ahsoka is more like how they expect Jedi to act rather than the way Luminara Unduli acted towards them after the death of their parents. Their conversations are quickly interrupted by Bo Katan and her Night Owls, who have tracked them down to Coruscant. Bo Katan takes off her helmet and informs Ahsoka that they now have a common enemy, Maul. She asks for Ahsoka's help and gives her only 5 minutes to decide whether or not to join them. She is afraid that joining Bo Katan in hunting Maul may lead her back to her life in the Jedi, but ultimately agrees to join them and boards their ship. The episode then ends with Ahsoka saying her final goodbyes to the sisters before finally jetting off with the Mandalorians in what is sure to lead into the Siege of Mandalore. That marks the end of the Ahsoka Alone Arc and really ties into the Siege of Mandalore, with everything wrapped up very nicely from this point. The episode confirms that Ahsoka and Bo Katan worked together in overthrowing Maul through his time as the ruler of Mandalore, even before the siege begins. So great to hear the name Crimson Dawn dropped in the episode after getting a comprehensive backstory for the Syndicate in the Solo movie. So thank you so much for watching. Remember to hit the subscribe button to be notified as soon as I release a recap video every single time a Clone Wars episode drops. Thanks so much for watching. Cheers guys.